December football. It's December football. It's a round-robin tournament to the end. We understand the importance of this game, and we can win this one. The next game will be more important than that one. So it's the biggest game this week. It's the only game this week. It's a division rival. They're one game ahead of us. We know we got to try to catch up. They know they got to keep a lead.
Todd Bowles, Buccaneers coach. Bucs at 5-7, Falcons at 6-6, Saints at 5-7, and they play the Panthers. You could have three teams at 6-7 tied atop the NFC South by the time this weekend is over. Let's do a little grab bag, fill in the blank. The Buccaneers can win this game and potentially take control of the division if they what, Peter?
Don't turn it over. And I don't mean to be cliche about that. I mean, the Bucs have played some very good games this year, I think. And they've also played games where they're a little loosey-goosey. And so I think they win this game this weekend if they win the turnover battle or at least tie the turnover battle in this game.
And I'll say just keep feeding Mike Evans. He's been great. He's already over 1,000 yards, 10 straight seasons to start his career. There was that thing this week with Chris Godwin and his wife calling Todd Bowles a liar. Look, Mike Evans is the guy. Godwin's good too, but Evans is the guy. And Baker Mayfield, it's Peter, some teams just kind of fly under radar and stay under radar all year, and the Buccaneers are in that bucket because the division is so bad and they're sub 500. But Mayfield has been solid. Better than what I think many expected. Evans continues to be one of the great receivers in the NFL in the final year of his contract and could be elsewhere next year. I think if you just keep showcasing him down the stretch, you got a chance not only to win in Atlanta after Atlanta won in Tampa earlier this year, but you got a chance to maybe win that division. All right, let's pivot to the Texans and the Jets. Texans are 7-5, very much in the thick of things in the playoff chase. Jets 4-8. This is pretty much it for them. I think they're already done, but if they lose on Sunday and fall to 4-9, they're done. What's more likely? We see Zach Wilson's best game in his return after a 2-game benching, or his worst game of the season?
I mean, how low is the bottom if you think it's going to be his worst game? So I guess I would say it's more likely you'll see his best game, but I don't think he's going to play that well. I think the New York Jets mentally have already checked out on Zach Wilson. But the question is, if you start a guy in the football game on Sunday and you cut him 36 hours later, what does that say about your faith in the current quarterbacks on your team? And what does that say if the guy who is going to start on Sunday, this coming Sunday, had been the number 3 quarterback just a couple of weeks before for a couple of weeks? That might be one of the worst segments that I've ever voiced in my life. However, let's move on. Here's the point, Mike, about Zach Wilson. Let's just throw all of the word salad from Monday and Tuesday. What did he say to somebody in the team? Did he not want to play? Was he convinced that he should play? Did Robert Saleh cover something up? Did Aaron Rodgers say the right thing when he said that we got to quash the leaks in this building? Blah, 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 all that stuff. Forget all that. And let's ask ourselves one question. Does Zach Wilson have a future with the New York Jets? No, he doesn't. But right now, they have no choice. It's either Zach Wilson or, guys who can't play football better than Zach Wilson right now. And so I don't know what you'd say right now if you're the New York Jets and you're trying somehow, some way to salvage this season with an offensive coordinator who has orchestrated, game planned, and called the offense at a historic NFL level for badness. 88 drives, last 88 offensive drives. They've scored 4 touchdowns. And keep in mind, one of them, the Eagles laid down. So on the last 87 drives that the defense was trying, they have 3 touchdowns. That is one of the most shameful stats I can imagine. And look, Mike, what kind of situation is Robert Saleh in right now? I mean, there's probably no coach in the NFL, no assistant coach in the NFL that has a more rock solid job right now than the guy who's putting the worst offense on the field in the NFL right now, Nathaniel Hackett. It's amazing. Look, there needs to be a 30 for 30 on the 2023 Jets season, and we don't need it 5 years down the road. We need it in May. I mean, this is just like the craziest season I've ever seen, with about 68 different chapters of mediocrity or worse.
And if there were to be such a 30 for 30, and if it were to be a true documentary done independently and not basically a glorified infomercial like so many documentaries now are, maybe we'd get to the bottom of where the dysfunction resides in this organization, because it is still there. And of all the things that were said throughout the week, the reporting about Zach Wilson being reluctant to play, the reaction to that, Aaron Rodgers saying what he said on Pat McAfee's show, Robert Saleh's press conference on Monday, where he seemed to give some credence and explanation for why Wilson would have thought what he thought. On Wednesday, when Saleh announced that Wilson was playing again, Saleh said, Wilson gives us the best chance to win, and I've always believed that, which led to an interesting dialogue with reporters on why wasn't he playing then, if you thought he gave you the best reason to win. And, Peter, we spent a lot of time last week talking about the control that David Tepper overtly exercises over the Panthers. I think if we were to have access to a full, independent, and objective 30 for 30 on the 2023 Jets, we would learn that Woody Johnson is a lot more involved than people think, and that the dysfunction ultimately traces to him. I remember when he was the ambassador to Great Britain, when he got that assignment, other teams that compete with the Jets were a little concerned because they thought Christopher would come in, his brother, and do a lot better than Woody. And that's one of the things that we overlook when the owner isn't standing out there making it clear I'm involved. They're still involved. And I just can't help but wonder how much of this is on him and what kind of decisions he's going to make going into 2024, because this is my concern with the Jets now. They're going to bungle this so badly the rest of 2023, it's going to screw up whatever chance they have in 2024.
I mean, I don't think that that's going to be the case. I think Aaron Rodgers will come back in 2024. I think they're going to be a good team in 2024. I think the biggest thing they can do in the last month of this season is to make sure there is not a civil war inside that building, because there's so many right now competing entities at stake. And, if you're on the defense, you've got to just go home and scream into the pillow at night, because you have to say what we do doesn't matter. We're not going to win games. Mike, there's one thing I wanted to say about like Tepper versus Woody Johnson. With Tepper, we know that there is significant interference, significant. And with the Jets, we might think there is, but we don't really know. And I think there's a big difference in that. I think it's easy to make assumptions on something without the full story being behind it. Whereas assuming that Joe Person and Diana Rossini are correct in this case, and we haven't seen any pushback from the team on it, that there were several people who were communicating essentially behind the back of the head coach with the owner, talking about things like the depth of the pass drop and things like that. And the problem is that the owner listened to them. And honestly, if I owned a franchise and I hired a head coach, I would tell those people, this is totally inappropriate that you're texting me with criticisms on the head coach and on whoever else in the building. It's totally, totally inappropriate. We're not going to be divided in that way. And to me, when I read that story, I just said, can you imagine if Bill Parcells or Bill Belichick or Bill Walsh or Mike Tomlin or whoever, Roxa, Andy Reid, can you imagine? Just imagine for a second that Clark Hunt gets a text message from a coach on Andy Reid's staff saying, "Hey, I don't know about this stuff that Andy's doing. Man, this is shaky." Or if a coach on a staff, even of a guy who's not successful, is saying it. If you're the owner of that team, you say, "Don't ever text me again with criticisms of the head coach." I'm serious.
Also,
I would say
pack your stuff and go. Pack your stuff and go would be
Just
the
get
next.
out of here. Yeah. It's incredibly, no matter what you think, it's just incredibly disloyal. If that indeed is what happened, it's incredibly disloyal, and it bothers me. And it really, really bothers me that the owner of an NFL franchise would fire 3 head coaches in mid-season in 4 calendar years. And he owns another franchise in the Carolinas, the MLS team in Charlotte, which has been alive for 2 years. He's fired the coach both years, the head coach. I mean, there is something wrong with David Tepper. The 9 years he spent as a minority owner with the Carolina Panthers, or with the Pittsburgh Steelers, excuse me. Obviously, he didn't study anything that the Rooneys did. They had 3 coaches in the last 54 years. This guy has had 3 head coaches, permanent coaches, in the last 54 months. So I think it's disgusting what's going on there. But as it relates to the Jets, show me some evidence that Woody Johnson is interfering, and then we'll see about it.
But see, that's the best way to do it. You do it in a way that leaves no fingerprints. I think the reality is they all do to some degree or another. Tepper just is at the extreme of, it's obvious and he doesn't care. It's my team. I'm going to run it how I see fit. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.